Welcome back to 2W Conversations, the podcast where we simplify technology because, let's be honest, there's enough complexity in the world. I'm Danielle, and today we're continuing our mini-series on modern work. Coming at you with part 3, joined by Collen, our in-house talent recruiter. We thought it'd be beneficial to hear the way she utilizes a lot of this technology in our hiring and onboarding process. Modern work is something that enhances efficiency across the board, so hopefully if you're someone in HR or recruiting and you've asked yourself, how would this impact me, you'll get that answer today. So Collen, since you are a newbie on this podcast, you want to give a quick hi into the mic?
Hello. Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Collen Yeager, and I am the talent recruiter for 2W Technologies. I am responsible for the full lifecycle recruitment process and onboarding of new hires, along with some general HR duties.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We actually started around the same time, I think like 3 to 4 months apart. So I've been able to see firsthand the difference that your role has made. So that's been pretty cool. I thought it'd be good to just walk through the process from start to finish, from finding candidates to maybe where they are months after being hired, and how a lot of the tools that you use and introduce to them in the beginning stay relevant to their day-to-day. So let's start pre-interview. I know one tool you use a lot in this stage is our AI solution, Resolve IQ. So let's start with that. AI is always a good attention grabber.
Yes, of course. So I love Resolve IQ. I use it in quite a few different ways. So prior to an interview, I typically put the candidate's resume into Resolve IQ and have it come up with some creative interview questions just based off the candidate's resume and experiences. And it oftentimes comes up with great questions that I have not even thought of. And I also like to record most of my interviews with candidate consent, of course, so that I don't have to be taking notes the whole time and I can really focus on the conversation at hand. I then take that transcription and put it in Resolve IQ and have it make a summary of the conversation that includes the skills, the goals, and the interests of the candidate. This really just helps me with keeping all that candidate information organized.
I bet. The amount of time you must save. I mean, think about it for a second. Even if you are a really good note taker, there's no way you can capture every single relevant piece of information accurately while also engaging in that conversation. So here at 2W, we hire a mix of remote employees and in-person employees, but I'm sure you see most of the benefit in your role come from the remote side.
Yeah, so we have some roles that are fully remote positions. It's great because it allows me to recruit candidates from anywhere geographically, but it also means that they could be in multiple time zones, which can be a scheduling nightmare. So we recently started utilizing Microsoft Bookings, which has really streamlined the process. With that, I'm able to send the candidate a link to my bookings page, and it's synced with my Outlook calendar, so they are able to choose the time that I'm available, and they choose a time, and a Teams meeting is then created, and an invite is sent to both my email and the candidate's email. And then they're able to use that link to reschedule or cancel the meeting. It really has just been a time saver from going back and forth via email about availability.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like these scheduling tools are something you don't think would make as big of an impact as they do. I mean, to think about how we used to email back and forth so many times is crazy. I didn't even think about the different time zone thing, and now that I am, there has definitely been times where I just assumed someone was in the same time zone as me. So not to have to think about that is a huge advantage. So, okay, you have this hypothetical candidate schedule now. What does the interview process look like, and what tools do you constantly use?
Yeah, so we typically start with a Microsoft Teams interview with me. So the candidates are able to use the desktop version or the mobile version of Microsoft Teams to join the interview, or they can even call in if they don't have a webcam. It's very user-friendly, and I've received very little pushback or concerns from the candidates. I like to do the video interview if possible because I think that the video element really adds another layer of communication compared to your traditional phone screen. The nonverbal communication and body language go a long way, and I think it helps me connect with the candidate just right off the bat.
Yeah, and this element is something that I feel like is pretty well adopted now, whether it's Zoom, Google Meets, Skype. I do see more and more businesses utilizing this video conferencing. but I do think Teams specifically has an advantage in terms of functionality and usability. You know, it's weird because video conferencing feels like something that's been around forever, but I can still remember going through the interview process where it was primarily phone screens. And for me, I feel like I was more nervous because I wasn't able to see who I was talking to, so it didn't seem like I was speaking to a human. You know, it just felt like I was speaking to someone that was just straight on analyzing me, right? And I also, as you can see, Colleen can see, I'm a huge hand gesturer, so being able to complement that with my communication helps a lot. And when I lose that ability to do hand gestures, because I would if I was holding a phone, I feel like I'm just off my game. But like you said, I think the big point is that Teams allows you to get that sense of personality from a candidate as well, which is especially important for your role. So aside from video conferencing, what other tools do you feel like is useful within Teams?
Yeah, so the chat feature. So I'm able to send over links or documents to the candidate in real time so that I don't have to go back after the interview and send it via email and possibly even forget. And I know I mentioned this a little bit previously, but I'm able to record the interviews for note-taking purposes so that all my attention can be directed toward that interview and just conversing with the candidate.
Yeah, that again is one of those things that you don't think would be a huge benefit, but it is. And personally, I always prefer chat over email anyway. I just think it's easier and more convenient. I know that's usually a 50-50 split that we see here at 2W, but okay, so then moving on to the next phase of your process, how do you leverage these modern work tools to make day one a success for these candidates?
Yeah, great question. So there's a lot of prep on the front end before the new hire's first day, but modern work tools have made it so much more streamlined and organized. So I like to have a new hire's first week completely planned out for them when they arrive. So they're never wondering what they should be doing, where they should be, etc. So when the new hire arrives on their first day, they get their credentials, log into their computer, and see a full calendar. I use Outlook Calendar to set up their one-on-ones, their meet and greets, their onboarding meetings, all prior to the first day. And then that way they feel that we are prepared for their arrival and that sufficient time has been set aside for their onboarding needs and that things just aren't rushed.
Yeah, for sure. I remember my first day. I remember looking at my calendar and my jaw dropped because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in over my head. But you're right. It was way better than coming in and having nothing planned and having that figure it out yourself mentality, right?
Yep, exactly. And that is our goal. I also take some time within that first day to direct them to our SharePoint site right away. So we have an onboarding SharePoint site set up with all the resources needed for the new hires. This includes links to videos, self-paced training, articles, learning portals, workplace setups, you name it. It really allows a new hire to understand how to access necessary resources from day one, which gives them that sense of empowerment and just that base knowledge of the organization as a whole, just to put that right foot forward right away.
Yeah. I feel like SharePoint always makes its way into every podcast we have, but it's because it really is our foundation, not even just for onboarding, but we have SharePoint sites for Microsoft, Epicor, different departments. It's really our internal hub. So shout out to Azure too, because that's the backbone of it all. But one of my favorite features that we have through SharePoint is our organizational chart. And for everyone listening, our org chart will pull all employee information from our Azure AD, which is the Active Directory, and it organizes everyone by department and level in this like family tree diagram type thing. And that was something that was so nice for me on day one because I had all these meetings set up as we just talked about, but I could look prior to those meetings and see who I'm talking to, get a picture of them, so have some expectations there, as well as see their position to know how or why I might be talking to them.
Yeah, that org chart is something I also show new hires on the morning of their first day. I mean, it really helps them put the pieces together, especially because about half of our employees are remote. So you don't see everyone if you're in office, and just helps them put the pieces together of that overall puzzle. Yes. They do want to touch base on how we use modern work technologies to enhance our company culture. So every Friday, we have a company-wide all-hands meeting that is held on Microsoft Teams. There are typically close to 60 people on the call. And I think we do a really great job of utilizing the features in Teams so that everyone's able to participate in the conversation. So some of these features include that hand raise function, reactions, we have custom 2W backgrounds, we utilize that chat feature, and then polls when necessary as well. It really just allows everyone to contribute in one way or another, even when there's a ton of people in the meeting and they don't want to unmute and, actually say things.
I love our all hands meetings and that it's a possibility. I mean, I've worked for smaller companies that don't prioritize company-wide meetings, so that was something that popped out to me right off the bat. But one of the cool things we do consistently in those all hand meetings is ringing the bell. And I'll give some context for everyone listening, but during the last 10 to 15 minutes, we just take a moment to shout out our colleagues and physically ring the bell for any and all accomplishments. And actually, our CEO is the one that physically will ring the bell, but that's something that wouldn't be possible without the tools that you just mentioned. So that's really cool. And this is a perfect segue because one of the biggest fears organizations have when it comes to implementing these modern work tools is how do we keep our culture, right? Because with modern work tools, you're now giving flexibility to employees that allows them to work on the go, and that could lower the amount of face-to-face interaction. And I'm sure you answer a version of this question within the interview process as well. So what does that look like, and how do you usually go about answering that?
Yeah, this is a topic I'm very passionate about because it's so crucial for remote employees to feel ingrained and assimilated within the organization's culture. So I really think that answer lies within getting creative with the features and capabilities of your technology. So, for example, this past holiday season, we did a Secret Santa, but we were able to incorporate all of our employees, not just those on site in Pewaukee. So we each chose a name from a hat, and if you chose a remote employee, you would mail them their Secret Santa gift. Then we got on a Teams video call over lunch one day, opened up the gifts together, and shared what we got. And it was really just a fun way to share that holiday excitement. And it involves a little extra planning, but it is so productive for the culture. It's so worth it.
I thought it was so worth it too. It was a really neat experience. Are we doing it again next year?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
More to come.
It really allowed our company to come together in another way that wasn't exactly work related. So that was cool to see. And I came from a fully in-house company, and transitioning to 2W, which is more 50-50 split with remote employees, I did not see any culture shift at all, which was cool. But are there any other tools you want to give a quick shout out to that you haven't touched on?
Yeah, I'll shout out Microsoft Forms real quick. So we've had quite a few open recs these past couple of months, which is so exciting because we're growing. But one of those pain points was keeping candidate information organized, as we have a lot of candidates coming to interview on site and remotely with hiring managers. So I recently started using Microsoft Forms to track feedback on candidates from the hiring managers, and it has been very helpful in evaluating them, organizing the candidates, and providing timely feedback to those candidates. So it's not only been helpful internally, but externally in terms of communication as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I use Microsoft Forms too to gather information from clients, and it's really easy and quick. Honestly, there are so many tools that we could talk about, but in respect to time, we'll wrap it up. Colleen, thank you. We will have one final episode in this series, and I'm very, very, very excited for it, so stay tuned for that. See you next time.